The Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry will hold the B20 Business Forum to support Indonesia's G20 presidency in 2022. Now, along with its position of holding the G20 presidency in 2022, Indonesia has also been appointed to host the B20 Forum, which represents business communities in G20 countries. Officials from the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or Kadin, who is also the organizer of the B20 Forum, said that the forum will not only represent elite businesses and large corporations, but it will also represent micro, small to medium-sized businesses. The chairman of the B20 event, who is also the deputy chairman of Kadin, Shinta Kamdani, said that one of the concrete steps during the B20 Business Forum is improving the capacity of small and micro businesses and helping them expand further so that they can gain access to capital from financial institutions. This step is also to promote MSME products or products by small to micro-sized businesses on the international level and encourage local Indonesian micro, small to medium-sized businesses to export. And to delve further into the B20 forum led by Indonesia, Metro Globe's Najla Hilabi talked with the chair of B20 Indonesia, Shinta Kamdani.
Indonesia is currently assuming the role of presidency for the 2022 G20. As part of this, Indonesia is also leading the B20 Business Forum, which reportedly will also focus on small and micro businesses. To discuss more, we'll be talking to Shinta Kamdani, Chair of B20 Indonesia and the Deputy Chairwoman of the Indonesian Chamber of Commerce. Hello, Bu Shinta, how are you?
Good afternoon, how are you?
I'm fine, Bu Shinta, thank you. Bu Shinta, could you explain to our
You're
viewers?
staying healthy.
Yes, sure. Bu Shinta, could you please explain to our viewers what is the B20 Forum and what are the priority agendas?
Yes, so let me explain first what's B20. B20, or called Business 20, is the business engagement group of G20. So it was formed in 2010 as the members from G20 countries, business leaders. And every year, the B20 Forum attracts over 2,000 delegates representing over 6.5 million enterprises from around the world. And the B20 is actually a very valuable platform for businesses in the G20 member states to also come together and generate actionable policy recommendation with the primary purpose of assisting the G20 leaders in spurring cooperation for economic growth and development. So each time we have task forces and we are providing with policy recommendation for the G20 leaders. We also in B20 Indonesia 2022 through policy recommendation and also concrete private sector voluntary action that also enable the G20 economies to recover, to be more resilient. So if we see, we don't want to just be policy recommendation, but also what's the legacies of Indonesia presidency by, some concrete actions that will be the outcome of the B20. And this leads also to obviously our theme this year, and our theme is advancing innovative, inclusive, and collaborative growth, which fits well into the B20 theme, which is recover together, recover stronger. And B20 Indonesia, you asked for the priorities. I set 3 thematic priorities that will help also in navigating the discussion. The first pillar is embracing a collaborative recovery and growth through facilitating cross-border cooperation to recover stronger together. While the world experts to achieve herd immunity this year, and many countries can expect strong growth in 2029, more still need to be done to ensure that herd immunity and economic recovery are shared equally across the globe. And this also requires global collaboration on multiple fronts, such as promoting trade and investment, infrastructure, logistic, healthcare, to boost more strategic partnerships. And our second pillar is boosting on innovative global economy. And this can be achieved by obviously unleashing the potential for innovation, technology, and economic digitalization. The third pillar is forging on inclusive and sustainable future. So we are not just empowering women, but also MSME. So when we talk about inclusive, it's not just about gender, but it's also about MSME and also maximizing their economic potential to be more sustainable and in a livable planet. So I think we talk about ESG principle, green technology, and so forth. So this is also part of the priority topics.
Okay, so we conclude there will be the global health, digital transformation, and green energy transition. But could you tell us in more detail what Indonesia will offer in each policy recommendation, and how will you get the G20 countries to take part on this?
Yeah. So the way it works, it's not B20 is not just about Indonesia. Indonesia is the leader, and therefore we are the chair of all the task forces. So I'm the B20 chair, and we have 6 task forces and 1 action council, and that consists of all business leaders from across B20 countries, and we'll get together and then set up the priorities agendas, and also then have a discussion to formulate, to shape the policy recommendation. So this is not just about Indonesia wanting to provide a submit policy. It's about facilitating with other participants. And on the 3 area, we have first we talk about the health architecture. We talk also about universal healthcare coverage. So we expand the preventive and primary care for all, making medicine and vaccine accessible and affordable, and also still stimulating sustainable healthcare ecosystem. And this is developing the industry, healthcare industry, and so forth. And on the green transition, we talk about accelerating green and transition financing. So when we talk about energy transition, we talk also about what's the sustainable financing, the carbon trading, how carbon credit mechanism. And then also we talk about the standardization and transparency. We talk about also technology, what kind of technology required on the energy transition. We're going into more renewable. How are we going to exit from more fossil fuel and coal-driven to a more stimulating renewable. Also, we talk about skill, people skill that's required in doing the energy transition. So these are some topic on the energy and green transition. And the other thing is on the digitalization. We also talk about inclusive growth. So increasing more financial and digital inclusion for women, also supporting MSME on scaling MSME through digital transition. I think this is important. Talks about really on the technology side and how digital become an enabler and developing its infrastructure and ecosystem as well.
Okay, Shinta, you've mentioned that this forum will also involve the MSMEs, and actually in more details, what are the potential of Indonesian MSMEs and what actually the act that B20 forum will facilitate for the MSMEs?
Yeah, so in Indonesia, for example, MSME constitute approximately over 90% of all businesses and generate more than 60% of the national GDP. After the outbreak of the pandemic, 39% of our MSME reduced their number of permanent employees, 23% of MSME reduced their number of also, some of their business. And the definition of MSME is very across country, but generally metrics such as number of employees, total asset, and annual revenue are being used. So when we talk about the MSME in the B20 countries, this is very diverse, right? And MSME has really not been a priority topic in the past B20 because this is when doing Indonesia presidency now as emerging economy, we want to put forward this agenda because we feel this is an important subject to all emerging economies and how to develop and facilitate the growth of the MSME. I think in order to maximize the potential of MSME, the informal sector make direct impact on also focus on improvement in digital infrastructure to support the standardization and transparency, and also connect providers of finance with the MSME that needs them. So we also talk about improvement in logistics, for example, should also to streamline supply chain, how to reduce costs, how to make MSME be part of the supply chain of the big companies as well. So not just developing its SMEs, but also connecting them and being part of the global supply chain is very important. And I think all this aspect, when we talk about Indonesian MSME especially, we know that a lot of the challenges are still there. Their readiness to go, to access market. They still need a lot of support in terms of financing aspect. They still need support on their, capacity building for their business development, business skills, and so forth. So we talk about many of these subjects. We talk about also skilling in MSME, and many of these are very much related to what Indonesia needs. So, but of course, we are not talking about just Indonesia. We're talking about MSME in the spectrum of the whole B20.
Shinta, despite of all the problems, many people said that Indonesia is actually the largest digital economy potential in Southeast Asia. In the B20 forum, how will Indonesia promote its digital economy to the world?
Indonesia is among the first to recognize the power of digital transformation in sector economy. And as the leading producer of decacorns in ASEAN, the country proudly participate in and foster a thriving tech scene. So yet at the same time, Indonesia would also be the first to admit that much more can and needs to be done in involving those at the bottom of the pyramid. In Indonesia, for example, of that would-be citizen in we talk about daerah tertinggal, we talk about daerah terdepan, terluar, or disadvantaged, outermost, and frontier regions. We talk about this. And for the foundation of digital infrastructure, I think serve both the private and public sector with e-government will be essential also for holistic economic and social development. And government need to take the lead on this, working closely also with the private sector to develop this fundamental digital infrastructure that is by design inclusive and also reducing the friction for even the least economically fortunate to find a way into the digital economy. We cannot leave anybody behind, right? We need to close the disparity. And I think the government of the G20 economy should act not only as market fixers, but also as leaders in the digital inclusion. Public policy actions can support system-wide transformations that ensure that what I mentioned, that ensuring nobody is left behind. And I think in the B20, we are ready to support G20 government as potential funders, participants, technology partners, and other models of collaboration.
Is Indonesia aiming to attract investment from the B20 forum, and what are the investment targets actually?
Yes, so definitely one of the, if we talk about from Indonesia presidency side, one of the aspect that we would like to, objective that we want to bring forward, obviously, is how Indonesia can use this momentum to attract more investment clearly, we want to use the momentum of our presidency to showcase many of the projects that we can promote to the business leaders around the world as investors. And when we talk about the priority sectors, obviously, we all know that many of the areas that Indonesia hired, we still need infrastructure. We talk about, even many of the energy, where we talk about energy transition. Obviously, there's many renewable energy projects also that we would like to still get investment. We talk about tourism, we talk about even digitalization and even health. I mean, we want to be the manufacturing hub for vaccine. I mean, we talk about that. So many investment, we would like to drive more investment, and of course, we want to achieve that. This is, again, also, we want to promote to the B20 members that Indonesia is ready for business, to welcome it. And with the structural reform that we've just did with the omnibus, I think this is also the right time, because it shows that Indonesia is committed in improving in investment climate. The government has provided incentives, to even to emphasize more investors to come to Indonesia. It's ease, of doing business. It has really cut many of the red tapes and the bottlenecking. So I think there is a serious also commitment from the government to actually really want to do this. And I think part of our job is to really also identify what projects can we showcase, who are the players, and we want to be inclusive to get projects all over Indonesia. So it's not just in the core, for example, certain priority areas, but also in other areas, a geographic area in Indonesia that can be potential to drive more investment. We talk about added value investment. We talk about, for example, how to develop our upstream and downstream industry. We can have this value-added manufacturing as well to bring investors to come in this area.
Okay, Lucinta, since you've mentioned about the energy transition, let's talk about this. Indonesia has a high concern about phase out coal. Of course, Indonesia and many countries are now still dependent on coal, and the price on renewable energies is still high for some countries. How does B20 intend to approach this matter on high cost of renewable and balancing energy mix?
So energy, I think, is a crucial input to all economic activity, and a secure and affordable energy supply has been a key enabling factor for the global economic growth that has lifted millions out of poverty. The current system of energy supply that is heavily dependent on fossil fuel is a massive global industry that creates values for a range of stakeholders covering government, shareholders, financiers, employees, technology suppliers, and many others. I think disrupting this to transition to renewable energy sources will have to address the issue of mitigating impacts and supporting adaptation to new realities. And in B20 Indonesia, the discussion will be direct around first, how can the loss of value of national resource endowments and existing development pathway be mitigated? Secondly, how can the loss of livelihoods and the fossil fuel and base energy production sectors be mitigated? And how can the impact of stranded assets on capital providers be mitigated? What is actually the expected outcome? And I think this is important that market or the market mechanism to compensate for the loss of economic development pathway relying on fossil fuel endowment needs to be identified, and training for reskilling of low, medium, and highly skilled human resource in the fossil fuel activity chain, as well as financial mechanism to mitigate impact of stranded assets. So when we talk about financial, we also obviously talk about financing some of these new renewable energy projects. And the president actually mentioned at COP26, mentioned, yes, we want to achieve, we are committed to achieve the climate change target, but, the advancing nations need to support us, what they have promised, for example, with the $100 billion, that has committed to help achieving this target. So where is this funding, right? And what is the cost of fund is even more important, because we need to be able to drive this to be able to be competitive. And I think at the end, this is also all the sustainable financing aspect when we talk about energy transition is very, very crucial.
Okay, Bu Shinta, last but not least, could you tell us what is your target and your hope about the B20 Forum 2022?
I think our target, first of all, as B20, we obviously want to outcome is actionable policy recommendations. I think this is important that policies that bring forward to the government is something that will be executed, will become the policy of the countries and then be executed, and we want to ensure that. The second is the legacy that Indonesia presidency can give. What kind of commitment, pledges, what kind of fund can we raise? We talk about blended finance, we talk about technology cooperation, many of the, what is really the concrete legacy that can Indonesia be the carbon market hub, for example? We talk about this. Can we say, I think government was talking about also how they can create the IMF of health, right? And I think business can participate as well, because some of the blended finance being raised come also from the business sector. So this is some concrete legacy that can be the outcome. But also it's important that we want to, I think the factor of definition of success as well is also for Indonesia itself, like what you mentioned, is how we can use the momentum of presidency to really get more investment, how we can promote Indonesia to the world, how we can bring, definitely the benefit, direct benefit out of the foreign exchange, because we will have many activities, over 200 activities throughout the nations, the whole 2022, I think will create and help boost up our economy as well. We can bring more, we can also, bring SMEs, bring businesses, to get, I think the government has calculated the increase of GDP because of this many activities that are happening throughout the B20 this year.
Okay, Bu Shinta Kamdani, the chair of B20 Indonesia, thank you so much for your time. We hope this B20 forum could be the momentum for Indonesian growth in economic sector, digital and global health architecture. And all you said is true that, this is some of the momentum that we need to achieve together. Thank you so much, Bu Shinta Kamdani, for your time.